Hello, wherever you are, I welcome you to uh, the presentation. I've already shared with you uh, the do's and don'ts during your USA F1 visa interview, that is your study visa interview. What's the things you are to do and the things you are not to do if you want to maximize your chances of getting your visa approved. Uh, I've always been biased, when it comes to such presentations. I have had to focus on students, or study visa, uh, probably because of my orientation, you know, and what I do. And so, uh, for now, I am still going to. I'm still on U.S. Visa interviews, but I have that affinity for students, and so I'm still dwelling on students. Particularly, I'm going to look at some frequently asked questions or frequently asked questions during your US F1 visa interview, your study visa interview. Remember that visas are of categories, and so the questions that are asked for, you know, uh, spousal visa category, for instance, are different from study visa category, and questions that are asked about study visa category are obviously different from transit visas or the other kinds of visas, and so it is important that uh, you acquaint yourself with the kind of questions that are likely to be asked you on the basis of the category of visa you have applied for. And today for now, I am dwelling on study visa interview. In fact, uh, questions that are asked during study visa, US study visa interviews are almost always predictable. Almost always predictable. You could predict them. Just that they are the same set of questions that are sometimes asked, differently. So it is important to take note. You can predict some of the questions and then rehearse at home way before you attend the interview. So let's look at a few of such questions that are asked during your interview, during your visa interview. Now, one of the questions that you are likely to be asked, one of the questions that you are likely to be asked during your visa interview is, why are you going to the US of A? Why are you going to the USA? So your counselor can ask you this. Yes, weird as it may seem, he still could ask you. And this is not a major question. They normally use this to prepare you for the major questions. Remember that your visa interview, your US visa interview, or F1 interview, or study visa interview, that does not last. It lasts between 2 to 4 minutes on the average. And so, you don't spend much time. That is why the questions are almost always the same. So, why are you going to the US of A? Keep it very snappy and crisp. Uh, do not go and give any lengthy reasons. Tell them that, or tell him or her that you have been offered admission by X university to go and study X program at the United States of America in the so and so academic year. This particular question does not demand any lengthy answer. Tell them that your university, you mentioned the name of the university, has offered you admission to go and pursue such program in the so and so academic year. When you say that, it answers the question of why you are going to the university. That is the first question, most likely question to be asked you when you appear for your F1 visa interview. The second interview is that they would ask why you have chosen to study in the US when you could have studied anywhere else. So they would ask, why do you want to study in the US of A when you could have studied anywhere in the world? Please, when they ask you this question, it is important that you avoid comments such as the US is a powerful nation, it has a strong economy compared to Ghana, and then you start pulling out Human Development Index statistics and how the US stands tall in terms of economic development and those things. When you begin to paint those fantastic pictures about the US, it gives the consular officer an impression that you have the intention of you have the interest of remaining in the US after your graduation. Remember that your F1 visa is a non-immigrant visa, and so it is important to bear that in mind. Don't go and create any impression that would make would make the consular suspect you or think that you have the intention of remaining in the US even after your graduation. So you go and tell them, you can tell them that how recognized US certifications or qualifications are, within the global arena. Tell them that US universities rank favorably in several metrics and standards of assessment of universities. You can cite specific examples, and then you can bring your school in as well. Notable successes that have been shoved by your school, notable rankings and achievements by your school. So tell them, one, US universities or qualifications are globally recognized, and as I said, you cite specific examples. So you want to attain that qualification, that US qualification, to make you globally competitive. It is also a good reason, yes, to study in the US. It is not important. It is completely unnecessary to go and paint a picture that the US has a buoyant economy, and so it is one of the reasons you want to go there and study. You create an impression that you don't want to come back. Tell them how impressive the US is when it comes to the delivery of high quality education. You can also talk about your school, what it does well, both in co-curricular and curricular activities. So it is important that you take note of these things. And then they would ask you the third question that is most likely to be asked is, how many universities did you apply to? How many rejected you? And then how many admitted you? Yes, they ask you these questions. You have to be clear and you have to be candid with them. Yes, if you are a serious student who is really bent on traveling to the US for further studies, of course, you would have explored other options apart from this particular one. And so you tell them, I applied for so and so number of universities. I was admitted by so and so number of universities, and I was rejected, by so and so number of universities, according to, the reality. It could be that you applied to 4 universities and you got admitted into all the 4 universities. You tell them you applied to 4 universities, you got rejected by 3 universities, and then you got admitted by 1 university. You tell him it is important. Now, a probable follow-up, or even if there is no follow-up, uh, you know, the counselor aimed at finding out why the choice of that particular university. So even if he doesn't ask a follow-up, you tell him that you got admitted into 2 universities, but based on reason A or B, you decided to settle on the university B. Give specific examples. You can mention specific, professors or professors or lecturers within the department to which you were admitted. Tell the counselor how you think the lecturer or the professor in question can impact your progress, can impact your progress, and how, his philosophy aligns with your career goals and objectives. So it is important that you state all these in order that the counselor will be convinced that indeed you have interest in what you really want to go and do. Good. So that is another question that is likely to be asked you. Good. Now another question that they can ask you is to find out whether you know of any notable alumni. Yes, many people might have passed through the school, the walls of the school, many of them doing well in their various pursuits and endeavors. And so the counselor or the counselor officer might ask you to mention any of the notable alumni, people of influence who went through the school. So it is important that in the course of your preparation, you take into account some of these things. You look for notable alumni when you are making your research about the school. People who have gone through the walls of the school, who are shaking, moving and shaking the various endeavors or the various spheres in which they find themselves. It is very important that you memorize or have in mind some alumni. Good. And then another question that they will ask you, another question that is likely to be asked is, do you have a family in the US? Do you have a family in the US? In fact, this particular question has generated a lot of debate. There's a divided opinion as to how this question should be answered. People are of the view that saying that you have a family in the US, could affect the chances of your visa approval, because by saying so, it goes to prove a point, or maybe it goes to it's kind of makes it a point that I want to clearly put this one because of the argument that surrounds it. It makes it appear. Does it re-emphasize? It does not re-emphasize, but it makes it appear that you probably might not come back because of the family you have over there. I mean, because of the back and forth that surround this particular question. Aspects from diverse walks of life have express their opinions, and so it is quite a sensitive one. So if they should ask, people have said that uh, if you say that you have a family in the US, it could lead to your rejection because you give the consular officer an impression or a basis that you might not return. You might join your family subsequently, and so that could lead to your visa rejection. And there's also another school of thought that says that, oh, you could have a family, it could even be a long distance family. You just have to mention to the consular, officer, uh, and you wouldn't have any problem because the consular officer knows that you might probably not be the only one who has the eligibility to travel to the USA. And so what is the point in denying you by mere dint of the fact that you have a family in the US? And so that is the back and forth. Um, people simply say that if you want to avoid any further questions, simply tell them that you have no family in the USA. But I am of the opinion that whatever the reality is, let them know. If you have a family in the US, let them know. If you have no family in the US, let them know. However, I leave this to your conviction. I leave this, how to answer this particular question, to your conviction. You should determine whether or not you should tell them, but remember you are under an oath to, to declare only the fact and nothing but the fact or the truth. So it is important that you tell them the truth. That's my personal opinion. However, I leave that to your conviction. However, it is people because of the fact that the interview does not last long. People can't return from the interview, get rejected, and exactly do not know how, what they did wrong. And so people would definitely express their opinion. Some thinking that people mentioned the fact that they have relatives in America and all that. If you want to avoid all those back and forth, it is important that you go by your convictions and go by the dictates of their visa requirements. Yes, go by your visa requirements. What I have said is that the American visa F1 visa interview, that is the visa interview for students, is almost one way, so to speak. The questions keep repeating, but in different shades and forms. Questions that you are likely to be asked are why you are going to the US. I've told you what to say when you are asked why you are going to the US. That is very simple. It is be crisp, be clear and concise. Tell them that you want to go there to study, having been offered admission by XYZ University. Good. And the second one is, why do you want to go to the USA? I've talked about the fact that it is important you do not go and paint a fantastic picture about the US, making reference to their buoyant economy and how it stands, shoulder to shoulder to. It is not important, and how it dwarfs the economy of the country from where you are, from where you want to go and visit or study in the US. It doesn't help. Those beautiful pictures, do not play, will not sound convincing to your consular officer in terms of issuing your visa. And then I also said that another question that could be asked is how many universities you applied to. You've got to be candid, you've got to be candid with them. be clear, factual about how many universities you apply to. Go ahead to tell them why you finally decided to settle on the said university. You could also be asked, you could also be asked about notable alumni, people, important figures who have completed the university. So in the course of researching about your university, you take into account these notable alumni and how they are making, how they are breaking the frontiers of their various endeavors, fields of endeavors. And then you could also be asked whether you have a family in the US or not, and that is where you have that divided opinion even amongst the experts. People are saying that why don't you avoid that further questions and probable suspicions by telling them that you have no family members living in America, rather than telling them and raising suspicions. People are saying that you are under oath, and so it is important that you go according to the dictates of your oaths. And I exhausted all these, and I think these are questions you should anticipate as you prepare for your US visa interview. Another question you could be asked, and the final of them all is why you should be given a US visa interview, a US visa, study visa, yes, an F1 visa. They could also ask you, and it is asked at the end of, as the last question, it is asked towards the end of the, towards the end of the interview. So you here, you must be very articulate. Tell them the kind of ties you have at home, for which reason you have, you have no intention of staying back after graduating from school. So it is important that you prove to them the kind of ties you have, the monumental achievements, the specific projects, your family ties, and other, such things that could prevent, that could, certainly compel you to come back home when you are done with your studies. So my dear brothers and sisters, as you prepare, or as your family member prepares for an F1 visa interview, let them take into account some of these things. Some of these questions are most, are likely. Some of these questions are likely to be asked, or are frequently asked at US visa interviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you some other time. Bye-bye.